This is what we're making today. This is called a hot apple dumpling, and we have put with it a beautiful bourbon cream. You're gonna like this one. We're coming up on the holiday season, and I wanted to come up with a recipe that would be very much appropriate to the holiday season. I wanted a recipe that kind of reminds you of America. A recipe that is as much Americana as anything could be. And you know, you would think it would be hot apple pie, right? But it's similar. This is hot apple dumplings. Here's the thing. When it comes to an apple pie, I absolutely love them. But there's one problem. My favorite part is when you get to the edge crust and you get a little more crust with each bite of apple. That's extra special right there. Well, with a hot apple dumpling, you get that extra crust built into every single bite. And that's one of the reasons I love this dish. A couple of other reasons too. The other ones are it comes also with a wonderful syrup that we put over the top of it after it's baked. And then there is another topping. It is a wonderful whipped cream that I like to call bourbon cream. And it's just a lightly sweetened whipped cream with a little bit of bourbon in it that is fantastic tasting. Now, here's the thing. If you don't want to use the bourbon, you don't have to. Use a little vanilla or rum or tequila or almond extract. Any flavor that you want to make it, go ahead and turn it into yours, or just leave it plain. Just a little bit of sugar and cream is fine. This is a very simple recipe. It's a humble recipe. It's kind of fun to make, and I am sure you're going to love the flavor of it once you've tasted it. Come this way. We're going to look at the ingredients, go over all of those, and get started on this very simple recipe. Come on. The ingredients we're using today, it's pretty simple. Let's start out with the star of the dish. It's the apple. Now, I like a tart dish like this, so I want my apple dish to be tart. I choose a Granny Smith for that. I think it's the perfect thing for doing pies and for hot apple dumplings both. To the Granny Smith, we're going to spice it up a little bit, and I'm going to use just a little salt, some allspice, and a bit of butter. And when I'm making my wrapping for this, that is going to be just a plain pastry, okay? I'm using a pie pastry. So it's some flour, some lard and butter, salt, and a little bit of milk. If you want, you can substitute half and half for the milk. It's your choice. It's just a little more creamier that way. For that wonderful syrup we're going to put over it, it's as simple as this right here. This is simple apple juice, and I want to reduce it until I have a syrup. I'm going to turn a quart into a cup. That's all there is to it. And then over on the other side, I have some cream, sugar, and some bourbon, and that is going to make our whipped topping that's going to be unbelievable when you combine it with these fantastic flavors. There it is. Hot apple dumplings. Now let's get into making this recipe. Come on. When it comes time to start this recipe, you're going to begin with the apples. We're going to split these in half right down the middle. Then we're going to peel them. After that, core it out. A couple of different things that can help with this. Of course, a peeler is nice if you don't have one. A simple paring or peeling knife. This is a peeling knife. Also, a good sized knife for splitting them in half. And then to core it, you can use a spoon. You can use a scooper like this, and this is actually what they call a disher, or you can use a melon baller. It'll take out that core real simple. Okay, so that's all we're doing. Or if you want, you can just use a small knife and carve it out. All right, very simple. Get your apples halved, cored out, and dust them lightly with the allspice and the salt. Here I have these almost completely finished. I've been just peeling them and coring them out. Very simple. That's all you got to do. Half, peel, core. You're all done with it. Too easy. Boom. All right. I can move right on to getting my spice on this. And if you do your peeling right, you'd be surprised how quick and easy and efficient it really is. Okay. Well, folks, when you're doing your apples and getting them seasoned, just like I've done here, you don't have to go crazy with your seasoning. Being a little bit soft on it can be wonderful. It gives that taste in the background that people wonder about. They know it's not cinnamon, but they know it's something good. A little salt, a little allspice, do it that on both sides. Very, very, very simple. The apple juice, simple enough. Place it in a saucepan, put it over a medium-low heat, bring it up to a simmer, reduce the temperature to low, and keep it simmering until you reduce this from 1 quart to 1 cup. That generally takes about 30 to 40 minutes, folks. All right, and it just depends on how high you have your heat. But you don't want it too high because you don't want this to accidentally burn, okay? So keep it reasonable. Doing a pastry is simple enough. We take our flour, put it in the bowl, add the salt, stir that in, cut in the fat, butter and lard. And then we mix in just enough milk that it all starts to combine and be able to stick together. We don't want to activate any more gluten than necessary, so keep your milk to a minimum. Use up to a half a cup if needed. I have my dough formed out here. It's all made. And all I have to do now is to cut this into quarters. Once I've done that, I can roll each quarter out, put an apple in the middle of each one. Now here's the thing. You want the cut side of the apple up, that flat side up, with the butter in the middle and the pastry coming around it, ending on top. Any extra pastry sticking out, simply cut off with your knife and move right on, okay? It's not hard to do these. Keep it as easy as possible. All of my dumplings here are ready to go, wrapped up, ready to put in the oven. I'm going to be baking these at 400. It takes about 25 minutes on average. You'll want to watch these, and if you start seeing a blowout in the side, you know, where it's starting to push out apple, your baking is finished. Back here, we have that apple juice just simmering away. So far, it has cooked out maybe a cup of water, and we're just going to keep simmering it down until there's 1 cup left. Let's go ahead, get these in our oven. Now, if you've noticed, I've placed mine on a baking sheet. Just makes it easier to handle them, that's all. 400 degrees, about 25 minutes. When you've removed these from the oven, and that's when they start to get a little bit brown on top, if you'd like, you can go ahead and pull them out of the dish and just let them cool on a rack like this. Or leave them in the dish and serve them in that way. But if you leave them in the dish and try to remove them when they've cooled, a lot of times they'll stick. Do yourself a favor and get them out while they're still hot and they're not stuck. The reason they stick is sometimes the juices will seep out, and as they reform on the bottom and cool, that sugar in it thickens and hardens and acts just like glue, holds them right in there. So if you're going to serve them in the cup, go ahead, center them off, and that way you can just pour your syrup over the top. If you're going to serve them on a separate plate, pull them out like this and let them cool separate. Our whipped topping is simple enough. All we have to do is put the cream into our mixer, add in the sugar, mix those two together, and once we get the sugar combined with the cream, turn that speed up to a high speed and let it just turn it nice and stiff. You can do this with a hand whisk also, but with the mixer it's so much easier. At the end, once it is nice and stiff, I will then go ahead and gently work in the bourbon. And there is just 3 tablespoons of bourbon there. So that's all it takes, folks. It's a very simple recipe. The quantity of all of our ingredients that we've used today, well, let's start right back here. That was our apple juice, and our apple juice we used 1 quart. The allspice, it's just simple. You dust it over there till you have a nice even coating across the apples. And you're not looking at more than maybe a quarter of a teaspoon at that point. The salt, again, same thing, lightly sprinkled over the apples before wrapping it. And for the butter, we used 1 pat of butter to each half of an apple. Now, that is very basic right there. The rest of this, we used 2 cups of flour for the pastry, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/3 of a cup of lard, 1/2 of a cup of butter. It's better when this is cold, both of these. And that was up to 1/2 of a cup of milk. On that whipped topping, we started with 1.5 cups of heavy cream, up to 1/3 of a cup of sugar. Generally 1/4 to 1/3 is sufficient, and 2 to 3 tablespoons of the bourbon or any other flavorant that you wish to use. Or if you use something like vanilla, only a teaspoon is going to be more than sufficient. Here we have it. our nice hot apple dumpling, all finished up with our apple reduction on the top and that beautiful bourbon cream. Now folks, that is a combination that's just definitely worth your time. This is so remarkable. You got this super flaky light crust. It's wonderful. You have the tartness from the apple. It's even more tart when you get down to that syrup. And that intense apple flavor. It's kind of like that syrup tastes like those sour, hard apple candies. Very much like that. And it's absolutely fantastic tasting. Really good over the top of this. In addition, we've got that little gem right there, that bourbon cream. When you throw that at people, you're going to take them back a little bit. They'll be surprised at that flavor and just how unique and special it is, but also how well it works on this. The apple is tender, it is tart, the pastry flaky, and everything else about this is just about as perfect as it can get. Please enjoy yours. Please take a look at the channel. The link is in the description box right below. Take a look also at my website. That link is down there too. That's where my recipes are and a lot of other information about me. If you would take a look at that, I do appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching this. Please subscribe if you haven't. Click the like button. And folks, please enjoy that hot apple dumpling. It's definitely worth your time. My mouth is watering for more. You have a good day. Bye-bye. Oh, yeah.